So you want to get better at speaking English, huh? Well, that's awesome. We're doing a deep dive into this script that's like packed with tips.
Okay.
It says it's for beginners.
Mm-hmm.
But I think anyone could find something useful in here.
Yeah. I can.
No matter like how long you've been speaking English. In fact, it reminds me of this one time, well, let's just say I learned the hard way, that good communication can really like make or break a situation.
It's true. Clear communication is so important. I think one of the things that's really interesting about this script is how it starts by addressing the fear factor.
Right.
You know, that feeling of, what if I mess up?
Oh, totally.
Or like, what if I don't have the right words? You know, the script really acknowledges those anxieties.
Yeah.
And reframes them as just part of the process.
Totally.
It's not like a sign that you're not cut out for this.
Yeah.
It's just part of the deal.
It's so true. Instead of just like jumping into grammar rules, it really encourages you to just start with simple phrases that you can use every day. You know, things like, how are you? Or can you help me with this?
Yes, exactly.
Like, that seems almost too easy.
I know. It might seem that way.
Yeah.
But think about it. Like, how do we get good at anything?
Right.
You know, we practice, we repeat, we kind of build those neural pathways. Mm-hmm. By practicing these like simple phrases, you're training your brain to think and react in English more automatically.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
It's almost like you're laying the foundation for a house.
Yeah.
You know, you need a solid base before you can build those like, you know, fancy upper floors.
Yeah. Okay. I'm starting to see how those basic phrases aren't so basic after all. Now, this next tip is something I actually do myself.
Oh, really?
Imitating native speakers.
Oh, interesting.
The script suggests like watching movies, listening to podcasts, anything that you enjoy, basically.
Right.
And trying to mimic their pronunciation, the tone, even the rhythm. It's like learning by osmosis, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's all about immersion.
Yeah.
You know, by surrounding yourself with the sounds of like spoken English, you're picking up on those subtle nuances that textbook learning sometimes misses.
Oh, totally.
You start to notice, you know, how native speakers connect words, where they emphasize certain syllables, how their intonation changes depending on the situation. And don't worry about like sounding exactly like someone else. It's more about like absorbing those patterns and incorporating them into your own, you know, unique way of speaking.
Right. Yeah. Speaking of sounding more natural, the script also talks about using idioms.
Okay.
Have you found that mastering those little expressions makes a big difference in how fluent someone sounds?
Oh, absolutely. Idioms are those like colorful figurative expressions that just add a touch of like personality and cultural understanding to your language. You know, think of phrases like break the ice, piece of cake, or hit the nail on the head. They don't always translate literally.
Right, exactly.
But they convey a very specific meaning within a cultural context.
They do. And they're not just about sounding more fluent.
Right.
They also show that you understand the nuances of the language and the culture.
Right, exactly.
You know, if you can just casually drop an idiom into conversation, it shows you're not just speaking the language, but you're engaging with it on a deeper level.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it signals that you're going beyond the textbook.
Right.
You know, embracing the richness of the language. Now, another tip the script highlights is the importance of pronunciation.
Of course.
You know, it might sound obvious, but you'd be surprised how many people neglect this aspect.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in grammar and vocabulary.
I know.
But like clear pronunciation is crucial if you want people to understand you. I mean, we've all had those moments where we've like mumbled or mispronounced something and it just leads to confusion or awkwardness.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and this script even suggests using some online tools like Forvo or Youglish to practice and fine-tune your pronunciation. These tools let you hear how native speakers pronounce different words and phrases.
Oh, cool.
You can even record yourself to compare and contrast.
Oh, wow. That's great.
It's like having a personal pronunciation coach.
That's awesome. Okay, one more tip before we move on, and it's a classic.
You okay?
Tongue twisters.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, who hasn't stumbled over "she sells seashells by the seashore" at least once?
Right, at least once.
Yeah.
Everyone's tried that.
But why do you think the script emphasizes these seemingly silly exercises?
Well, beyond being a fun challenge, tongue twisters are actually incredibly effective for training your mouth muscles.
Interesting.
To produce specific sounds accurately.
Yeah.
By repeating these kind of tricky phrases, you're working on your articulation, which is crucial for clear and understandable speech. Think about it. When you speak clearly, your audience can focus on like what you're saying, your message,
Mm-hmm.
instead of straining to decipher your words. It's a subtle but powerful way to just enhance your overall communication skills.
That's a good point. It's not just about sounding fancy. It's about making sure that your message comes across loud and clear.
Right, exactly.
All right, I think we've covered a good chunk of the tips focused on pronunciation and sounding more natural.
Yeah.
What do you think? Should we move on to some of the other areas the script covers?
Absolutely. Let's dive deeper into those other essential aspects of speaking English with confidence.
Just do it.
One thing that really struck me about this script is how it emphasizes the importance of building your vocabulary.
Yeah.
It suggests aiming to learn 3 to 5 new words each day
Okay.
and then actually using them in sentences.
Right.
What do you think about that approach?
It sounds simple enough, but I can definitely see how it would be really effective. Instead of just memorizing a list of words, you're actually integrating them into your spoken English.
Yeah.
It's you're taking those words out for a spin, getting comfortable with them.
Totally. And the script even provides a simple example I learned the word excited.
Okay.
I feel excited to practice speaking today.
Right.
It might seem basic, but that act of using the word in a sentence helps solidify it in your memory.
Right.
It's like taking a new tool out of the toolbox and learning how to use it.
I like that. And speaking of tools,
Yeah.
the script also mentions flashcards as a classic but effective method for vocabulary expansion. You write the word on one side, the definition or an example sentence on the other.
Oh, yeah. Classic flashcard.
It's a technique that's been around forever, but it just seems to stand the test of time. Why do you think that is?
Well, flashcards tap into some powerful learning principles,
Okay.
like spaced repetition and active recall. You're essentially forcing your brain to retrieve the information from memory, which strengthens those neural connections.
Okay.
And by spacing out your review sessions, you're ensuring that the information gets transferred to your long-term memory.
It's like giving your brain a little workout.
It is.
Right. The more you challenge yourself to recall those words and definitions, the stronger those memories become.
Exactly, yeah.
Now, beyond individual words, this script also talks about learning common phrases and idioms.
Right.
What's the advantage of focusing on phrases rather than just memorizing isolated words?
It's about shifting from a word-based approach to a more phrase-based approach.
Yeah.
When you master those common phrases, you're essentially equipping yourself with pre-packaged units of meaning that can be readily deployed in various situations.
Yeah.
It just makes your speech more fluent and natural.
Right.
Because you're not having to mentally translate each individual word in real time.
It's like learning to dance. You start with basic steps, and then eventually you're able to string those steps together into more complex sequences and movements.
Yeah, I like that analogy.
Speaking of fluency, one tip that caught my eye is the idea of thinking in English.
Oh, yeah.
The script suggests that instead of translating from your native language, you should try to form your thoughts directly in English.
Right?
Do you think that's really possible, especially for someone who's just starting out?
It's definitely a process.
Yeah.
It might not happen overnight,
Right.
but with consistent practice and immersion, it becomes increasingly natural. You'll find yourself thinking in English more and more, especially in situations where you're using the language frequently.
Right.
It's like you're training your brain to kind of... It is.
Now, of course, all the vocabulary and mental practice in the world won't do much good if you're not actually speaking out loud. And that's where the script's emphasis on practice really comes in.
Yes.
It suggests finding a language partner or tutor to have regular conversations with. What are your thoughts on the importance of finding a speaking buddy?
Oh, it's absolutely crucial. I mean, you can learn all the grammar rules and vocabulary in the world, but speaking is a skill that requires active practice. Think of it like learning to play a musical instrument.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't just read about music theory. You'd actually pick up the instrument and play it. Having a dedicated partner or tutor provides you with a safe and supportive environment to experiment, make mistakes, and refine your spoken English. It's like having a training partner at the gym.
Oh, yeah.
They push you to improve and help you stay motivated.
And speaking of staying motivated, the script also recommends joining English clubs or groups, either online or in person.
Yeah, great idea.
Why do you think that social aspect is so important for language learning?
Well, it's about more than just practicing your spoken English.
Yeah.
It's about immersing yourself in a community of like-minded individuals who share your goals. It fosters a sense of belonging and motivation, and it makes the learning journey more enjoyable. Think of it as expanding your social circle while also expanding your linguistic skills.
It's like killing two birds with one stone.
Exactly.
You're practicing your English and making new connections at the same time.
Absolutely.
All right, I think we've covered a good chunk of the proactive steps you can take to improve your speaking skills.
Yeah, I think so too.
But this script also dives into something that I think a lot of people struggle with.
Yeah.
Common mistakes and how to fix them. What do you think? Should we take a look at some of those pitfalls and how to avoid them?
Absolutely. Let's shed some light on those common stumbling blocks.
Okay.
And empower you to navigate them with confidence. We've talked about all these great tips and techniques.
Right.
But I think we could all agree that one of the biggest hurdles to speaking any language, especially a new one, is the fear of messing up.
Oh, absolutely.
Have you ever felt that way, like you're so worried about making a mistake that you just freeze up?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
All the time. It's like my brain just shuts down.
It's a completely natural human response.
Yeah.
We don't want to sound foolish or be judged.
Right.
So we hesitate, we overthink.
Yeah.
And sometimes we just avoid speaking altogether.
Right.
But here's the thing. This script really emphasizes mistakes are inevitable.
Yeah.
They're not a sign of failure.
Right.
They're actually proof that you're learning and pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone.
So true. It's like that saying, you can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
But how does this script suggest we deal with that fear, practically speaking?
Well, it encourages you to reframe your perspective.
Okay.
Instead of seeing mistakes as something to be ashamed of, try to view them as valuable feedback.
Okay, yeah.
Each time you make a mistake, you're learning something new about the language. You're identifying areas where you need more practice, and you're becoming more aware of those subtle nuances that make a difference.
So it's not about striving for perfection, but about embracing the learning process, bumps and all.
Exactly.
Another common mistake the script highlights is this tendency to overcomplicate sentences. I know I've been guilty of this myself, especially when I'm trying to impress someone or sound more academic. Why do you think we do that, and how can we avoid falling to that trap?
I think it stems from this misconception that complexity equals intelligence or fluency.
Right.
We might feel like we need to use big words and intricate grammar to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
But in reality, simplicity is often the key to clear and effective communication.
That's so true.
Think about some of the most powerful speeches or like memorable quotes.
Right.
They're often quite simple and straightforward in their language.
It's like that quote, I think it's Mark Twain who said it, I didn't have time to write a short letter, so I wrote a long one instead.
Exactly, yeah.
It actually takes more effort to distill your thoughts down to their essence.
Absolutely, yeah.
So how does the script suggest we simplify our sentences without sounding, well, too simple?
Well, it encourages you to focus on conveying your message in the most direct and understandable way possible.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to use shorter sentences,
Right.
everyday vocabulary, and a conversational tone. Think about how you would explain something to a friend or family member. You wouldn't use overly formal language or complicated structures.
Right. It's about being authentic and relatable.
Exactly.
Speaking of relatable, this script also dives into a common challenge that many English learners face: limited vocabulary. We've already talked about flashcards and learning new words every day, but what are some other strategies the script suggests for expanding our word bank?
It encourages you to become an active reader.
Okay.
Whether it's books, magazines, online articles, or even social media posts. The more you expose yourself to written English, the more new words and phrases you'll encounter.
Yeah.
And don't just passively read. Actively engage with the text. Underline unfamiliar words. Look up their definitions, and try to use them in your own writing or conversations. It's like turning your reading material into a personalized vocabulary builder.
Like a treasure hunt for new words.
Yeah.
Now, beyond reading, this script also emphasizes the importance of actively listening to English being spoken, whether it's podcasts like this, movies, TV shows, or even conversations with native speakers. Just paying attention to how others use language can be incredibly insightful. Why do you think listening is such a crucial part of language learning?
Well, it's about more than just understanding the words being spoken.
Okay, yeah.
It's about absorbing the rhythm, the intonation,
Right.
the subtle ways that native speakers connect words and phrases. It's like training your ear to recognize the music of the language. And the more you listen, the more natural those patterns will start to sound, and the easier it will be to incorporate them into your own speaking.
So it's like immersing yourself in the soundscape of the language, even when you're not actively speaking.
Exactly, yeah.
Speaking of active speaking, this script doesn't just leave you with tips and techniques. It actually provides a practice exercise to help you put it all together. Can you walk us through what that exercise entails?
Absolutely. It's a 3-step exercise designed to help you practice some fundamental conversation skills.
Okay.
The first step is introducing yourself.
Right.
Your name, where you're from, maybe a hobby or two.
Okay.
It's a simple way to warm up your speaking muscles and get comfortable talking about yourself.
It's like that classic icebreaker activity you do at the beginning of like a workshop or a meeting.
Exactly.
It helps you ease into the flow of conversation.
Exactly.
So what's step 2?
Step 2 is describing your day.
Okay.
What you did, what you ate, any interesting events that happened. It's a great way to practice using different tenses,
Right.
vocabulary related to daily activities, and even like descriptive language. You can make it as simple or as detailed as you like, depending on your comfort level.
Yeah. It's like turning your everyday life into a conversation topic. And finally, the 3rd step.
The 3rd step is all about practicing asking and answering questions.
Okay.
You could use simple questions like, what's your favorite color?
Right.
Or what do you like to do in your free time? Or you can get more creative and ask open-ended questions that spark more in-depth conversations. The key is to practice formulating questions clearly and responding in a way that keeps the conversation flowing.
It's like a mini conversation simulator. And the best part is you can adapt this exercise to fit your own interests and goals. If you're interested in travel, you can practice talking about your dream vacation. If you're learning English for business, you could practice, asking work-related questions. The possibilities are really endless.
Exactly. It's about taking ownership of your learning journey and making it relevant to your own life. And don't forget, this exercise is just a starting point. You can repeat it as many times as you like, focusing on different areas each time. And remember, the more you practice, the more confident and fluent you'll become.
So there you have it. A deep dive into this script packed with tips, techniques, and even a practice exercise to help you on your journey to speaking English with confidence. We've covered a lot of ground today, but if we had to distill it down to a few key takeaways, what would you say are the most important things to remember?
I would say, embrace those mistakes, keep things simple, expand your vocabulary through reading and listening,
Yes.
find a speaking buddy, and most importantly, practice, practice, practice. Remember, language learning is a journey, not a destination.
Love that.
And every step you take, no matter how small, brings you closer to your goal.
I love that. And speaking of taking steps, I want to leave our listeners with a thought-provoking question to think about. Think about all the reasons you're learning English. Maybe you want to connect with people from different cultures. Maybe you want to advance your career. Or maybe you just want to experience the world in a new way. How do you think improving your English speaking skills will help you achieve those bigger dreams and aspirations? That's something I want you to ponder as you continue on your language learning journey. Until next time, happy speaking. All right, so it seems like our listeners getting ready for some adventures, huh? Getting ready to tackle public transport in English. Well, we've got a whole stack of sources here. And I think our mission today is to not just give the basics, but some real insider tips, so you can navigate public transport like you've been doing it your whole life.
Sounds good to me.
It's funny, when I first started traveling, I was so nervous about using public transport. I was always so worried about ending up in the wrong place.
Oh, yeah. I can relate to that.
Yeah, one time I ended up on this milk run local bus in the Czech Republic because I was too afraid to ask if it was the express to Prague.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I got a very scenic tour of all these tiny villages, but it took forever.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely learned my lesson there.
I think we've all had those moments, haven't we?
Right.
But you're right. Feeling confident on public transport can make or break a trip. And what's fascinating is that no matter where you go in the world, the basics are pretty much the same. It's all about understanding the system, the etiquette, and having those key phrases up your sleeve.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's dive into these sources. It looks like we've got practical guides, some cultural insights, and even a bit of history thrown in. Should be interesting.
Yeah, this is great.
So one thing that jumps out is the emphasis on vocabulary.
Oh, definitely.
Those essential words that can make all the difference. Obviously, bus, train, station, ticket, these are the basics. But what about those less obvious words, the ones that can really help you navigate like a pro.
Right.
What do you see in the sources?
Well, for example, one source points out the difference between line and route, which can be confusing, especially in a city with a complex subway or bus system.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, a line usually refers to a specific track, like the red line or the blue line, while a route refers to the overall journey that the vehicle takes, which might include multiple lines.
Ah, that makes sense. I've definitely mixed those up before.
Yeah, it's a subtle but important distinction.
And it looks like our sources also stress the importance of words like platform, stop, and direction. Mm-hmm.
It might seem obvious, but using the right vocabulary when you're asking for information can save you a lot of hassle.
Absolutely. And I'm also seeing some interesting cultural nuances here. Like, in some countries, you might need to say single ticket or return ticket, whereas in others, it's more common to say one way and round trip.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Like what I mentioned earlier, the return ticket versus round-trip ticket thing.
Exactly. That wasn't just a random example. Our sources actually dive into the history of those terms, which is pretty interesting. It turns out it all goes back to how railway terminology developed back in the 19th century. British English stuck with the older phrase return, while American English adopted round trip.
Huh, who knew?
It's these little differences that not only make you a better communicator, but also give you a deeper appreciation for the language.
I love that. It's like a secret window into the history of the language. But okay, enough with the vocabulary lesson. Let's move on to the good stuff.
All right, let's do it. Key phrases. Because knowing the words is one thing, but actually using them, that's the real challenge. So what do our sources have to say about those essential phrases for navigating public transport?
Well, they've got a whole treasure trove of expressions. Let's start with asking for information, which is probably one of the first things you'll need to do.
Right.
They suggest a bunch of phrases, everything from simple ones like, excuse me, where's the nearest bus stop?
Mm-hmm.
To more complex ones like, could you tell me which line goes to the city center?
Yeah. It's interesting how even a slight difference in phrasing can make a big impact on how you come across. I remember once I was in Paris and I accidentally used a phrase that was considered a bit too informal when I asked for directions. The person looked at me like I was crazy.
Yeah, politeness and formality play a big role in these interactions.
Oh, for sure.
It's always best to err on the side of politeness, especially when you're in a new place and you're not sure about the local customs.
So, besides asking for information, what other key phrases should we have in our back pocket?
Well, buying a ticket is another crucial one. The sources recommend phrases like, how much is a ticket to? Or, can I buy a day pass? And they also point out how important it is to be specific about whether you want a one-way or a round-trip ticket to avoid any mix-ups.
Makes sense. Now, what about those tricky situations where you need to ask for help once you're already on board?
Oh, good point.
Yeah.
Like if you're not sure where to get off or you need directions to a specific landmark.
Exactly. What do the sources suggest for that?
Well, they've got you covered. They recommend phrases like, excuse me, does this bus go to? Or could you please let me know when we reach? And they even give tips on how to politely ask a fellow passenger for help, like, excuse me, I'm a bit lost. Could you point me in the right direction?
Mm-hmm. I wish I had known some of these phrases when I first started traveling. Would have saved me a lot of awkward moments. But it's not just about knowing the words and phrases. It's also about understanding those nonverbal cues, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like body language and tone of voice. Those can make a big difference in how your message is received.
Yeah, for sure. Things like eye contact can be tricky, too.
How so?
Well, in some cultures, it's considered rude to make direct eye contact with strangers. But in others, it's seen as a sign of respect.
It's fascinating how those cultural differences can play out in such subtle ways.
It really is. And that's why it's so important to be observant and try to adapt to the local customs. Speaking of cultural context, let's move on to public transport etiquette.
Okay, etiquette, always important.
Yeah, this is where things get really interesting.
Yeah.
Because there are all these unspoken rules and customs that vary from place to place. And our sources have some great insights into how to navigate those. For example, did you know that in some cultures it's considered rude to eat or drink on public transport?
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. But in other places it's totally fine.
Interesting. What about things like offering your seat to someone who needs it more? Is that pretty much universal or does it depend on the culture?
It's a good question, and it's actually a bit more nuanced than you might think.
Oh, okay.
The general principle of giving up your seat to someone who needs it is pretty widespread.
Right.
But there are subtle cultural differences in how it's done. Like, In some cultures, it's customary to directly offer your seat, while in others, it's more common to just make eye contact or subtly gesture to indicate that your seat is available.
I never realized there were so many layers to something as simple as offering your seat.
Right. It's all about being observant and sensitive to those cultural nuances.
It really is. So, what other interesting etiquette tips did you find in the sources?
Well, one that stood out was about cell phone use. In Japan, for example, it's considered polite to avoid talking on your phone while on public transport, even if you're whispering. They really value a quiet and peaceful atmosphere.
I can see that. It makes sense.
Yeah, and it's not just about being quiet. It's also about being mindful of your personal space and your belongings. In crowded trains or buses, you want to avoid jostling people or blocking aisles with your bags.
Right. I learned that the hard way once. I was on a packed train in Rome, and my backpack accidentally unzipped. Luckily, nothing was stolen, but it was a good reminder to be extra careful.
It happens to the best of us.
Exactly. So it seems like we've covered a lot of ground already. Vocabulary, key phrases, cultural nuances.
We have.
But I'm already feeling more confident about navigating public transport in English.
Me too. And we've only just scratched the surface. There's so much more to explore.
Okay, so where do we go from here? What other aspects of public transport do we need to delve into?
Well, next, I think we should get into the nitty-gritty. Like how to actually use those ticket machines, decipher those fare systems.
Yeah, the practical stuff.
Exactly. And also how to plan efficient routes. And of course, how to deal with those inevitable travel hiccups. Like what happens when there's a delay or a disruption?
Right, because those things happen all the time, don't they?
They do. So stay tuned because we're about to get even deeper into the world of public transport.
This is going to be fun.
It is. Okay, so let's get down to the practical stuff. The nuts and bolts of actually using public transport.
Yeah, and the nitty-gritty.
Exactly. And one thing that our sources really emphasize is understanding the fare system.
Oh, the fare systems, yeah.
Which can be a bit of a maze, to be honest, especially when you've got all these different ticket options, zones, payment methods.
Oh, tell me about it. I remember standing at a ticket machine in London once. Totally lost. Peak fares, off-peak fares, Oyster cards, contactless payment. It's like trying to solve a riddle.
It really can be. But that's where our sources come in handy. They break down all those different fare systems, explaining things like zone-based pricing, travel passes, the pros and cons of different payment methods. One source even recommends some specific apps that can help you calculate fares and buy tickets ahead of time.
Oh, it's handy. I know some cities have gone all in on those contactless payment systems now, where you can just tap your card or your phone. Is that becoming more common?
It definitely seems to be gaining traction. A lot of the sources mention the rise of contactless payment in public transport. It's just faster, more convenient, and often more secure than those old-fashioned paper tickets or passes.
Right.
But, it's worth noting that not all cities have jumped on that bandwagon yet.
Yeah, it's true.
So it's always a good idea to have a backup, like cash or a local travel card, just in case.
Always good to be prepared.
Absolutely. Speaking of preparation, our sources also have some great advice about planning your routes.
Oh, yeah, route planning. That's key.
One even suggests using specific route planning apps that factor in real-time traffic, delays, even accessibility needs.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. It's like having a personal travel assistant in your pocket. And I think sometimes we forget how important it is to actually plan ahead when we're using public transport.
Right.
We tend to think of it as just hopping on and off, but there's actually a lot of strategy involved if you want to maximize your time and make your trip as smooth as possible.
Yeah, I think you're right. Thinking ahead about things like transfer points, rush hour, potential delays, it can really make a big difference in your overall experience.
Totally. It's about being proactive, not reactive. Right?
Exactly.
But okay, let's be real. Even with the best laid plans, sometimes things go wrong. There's a delay, a disruption, something unexpected happens.
It happens.
So how do you navigate those situations? What do the sources say?
Well, they've got some excellent tips for dealing with those unexpected events.
Okay, good.
One source even recommends learning a few key phrases in the local language, specifically for asking about delays or alternative routes.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah, things like, "Excuse me, is this train delayed?" Or, "Is there another way to get to?" Having those phrases ready can be a lifesaver.
Absolutely. Even just a few basic phrases can go a long way, right? It shows you're making an effort, and it can really help you connect with locals who might be willing to lend a hand.
Definitely. Speaking of connecting with locals, one thing that struck me in the sources is how much emphasis they put on the social aspect of public transport.
Oh, yeah, the social side of things.
It's like this unique space where you've got people from all walks of life coming together. It's a real microcosm of society.
I love people watching on public transport. It's like a live-action movie unfolding right in front of you. You see couples arguing, friends laughing, strangers exchanging glances. It's just this reminder that we're all connected in some way, even if it's just for a brief moment on a crowded train.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And it's something that our sources touch on as well.
Yeah.
They talk about how public transport can be this unexpected place for serendipitous encounters, for sparking up conversations, for observing the sheer diversity of human experience.
Yeah, you never know who you might meet or what you might overhear. It's part of the adventure.
Right. It is. And sometimes even those fleeting moments can leave a lasting impression.
I totally agree. I actually had this experience once. I was on a train in India, traveling solo, and I ended up chatting with this young woman for hours.
Wow.
We shared stories, talked about our dreams. It was just such a heartwarming experience. It reminded me that even in the most unexpected places, you can find connection.
That's a beautiful story.
Yeah.
And it speaks to the heart of what public transport can offer. A sense of community, a chance to connect, an opportunity to see the world through different eyes.
Okay, so we've talked about the practical stuff, the cultural nuances, the social side of things.
We have.
But there's one crucial aspect we haven't really delved into yet, and that's safety.
Ah, yes, safety.
What advice do our sources offer for staying safe on public transport, especially when you're traveling alone or in unfamiliar cities?
Well, all of our sources address this in detail, and they offer a ton of practical tips, everything from common sense precautions to more specific strategies for navigating potentially risky situations. One thing that comes up repeatedly is the importance of being aware of your surroundings, staying alert, paying attention to who's around you, trusting your gut feeling if something seems off.
Right, being vigilant. And they also emphasize protecting your belongings.
Right.
Keeping your valuables close, being wary of pickpockets, avoiding flashing large amounts of cash.
Yeah, basic stuff, but easy to forget sometimes.
Exactly. Now, what about those situations where you might feel uncomfortable or unsafe? How do you handle those? What do the sources suggest?
Well, one source recommends having a plan in place before you even step foot on public transport. Knowing the local emergency numbers, identifying places where you could seek help if needed, even practicing some self-defense techniques can give you a sense of confidence.
It's all about being prepared, feeling in control, right?
Exactly. And remember, it's always better to err on the side of caution. If something feels off or makes you uncomfortable, don't hesitate to remove yourself from the situation, even if it means missing your stop or waiting for the next train.
Safety first. You should never feel pressured to stay in a situation that makes you uneasy.
Absolutely. And speaking of feeling uneasy, one of the sources talks about harassment on public transport, which sadly can be a reality, especially for women traveling alone.
It's an important topic to address.
It is. And they offer some really helpful tips for dealing with these situations, like assertively setting boundaries, seeking help from other passengers or authorities, and reporting incidents to the appropriate channels.
It's a good reminder that you're not alone in these situations, and there are things you can do to protect yourself and advocate for your safety.
Exactly. And it's so important to keep raising awareness about these issues and work towards creating a safer and more inclusive environment for everyone on public transport.
I agree. Okay, so we've talked about practical tips, safety advice, and even some deeper thoughts on the social and cultural dynamics of public transport.
A lot to think about.
But there's one thing we haven't touched on yet that I find really interesting, and that's the environmental impact of public transport.
Oh, yeah. Great point. And that's something several of our sources highlight as well.
I figured.
They really emphasize how choosing public transport over private vehicles is a big step towards reducing our carbon footprint.
It's amazing to think that something as simple as hopping on a bus or train can actually make a difference for the planet.
It really can.
Yeah.
And our sources actually get into the specifics of how public transport helps reduce greenhouse gas emissions, improve air quality, and reduce traffic congestion, all of which have positive impacts on the environment and our well-being.
It's like a ripple effect.
It is.
It makes you feel like you're part of something bigger.
Right. And, it's not just about the environmental benefits. Public transport can also lead to healthier lifestyles.
Oh, how so?
Well, it encourages people to walk and bike to and from stations, which reduces our reliance on cars. And that helps create more vibrant, pedestrian-friendly cities.
So many positive outcomes. And it all starts with that simple choice to take the bus or train instead of driving.
Exactly. Speaking of positive changes, Some of our sources also talk about the role of technology in shaping the future of public transport.
Oh, yeah, the future of transport. That's exciting.
We're seeing some incredible innovations, self-driving buses, hyperloop systems, things that could revolutionize how we get around.
It's like something out of a sci-fi movie.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But it's becoming a reality. Imagine a future where public transport is seamless, efficient, and accessible for everyone.
That's a great vision.
It is. And it reminds us that public transport isn't just about getting from A to B, it's about creating a more connected, sustainable, and equitable world.
I like that. Okay, so today we've covered practical tips, safety advice, cultural insights. We even touched on the environmental and technological aspects of public transport.
We've covered a lot of ground.
It's clear that public transport is about so much more than meets the eye.
It really is.
It's a vital part of our lives and our communities. And as we've seen in this deep dive, it's a chance to learn, connect, broaden our horizons, and even contribute to a more sustainable future.
Absolutely. It's an invitation to step out of our comfort zones, embrace the unexpected, and see what we can discover.
So, are you ready to embark on your own public transport adventure?
I know I am.
You know, it's amazing how much we've uncovered about public transport, right? It's way more than just a way to get around.
It really is. It's like a living, breathing part of the city, you know? Reflects the culture, the people, everything.
Yeah, and it's constantly changing too. I mean, one thing that really stood out to me from these sources is the sheer variety of public transport systems out there.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, you've got everything from those super fast bullet trains to those cute little cable cars to like futuristic self-driving pods.
It's mind-boggling, isn't it?
It is. Shows you how creative people can be, you know?
Yeah, each city kind of adapts its system to fit its own unique needs and its character.
Right. And one source even talked about the social impact of public transport, you know, like how it can help reduce social isolation.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting.
Make things more accessible for everyone, and even shape how cities grow and develop.
Yeah, it's all connected, isn't it?
Yeah.
There was that term, transit-oriented development that kept popping up.
Oh, right, right.
Fascinating how cities are being designed around public transport hubs now.
Yeah.
Creating these walkable communities that are more sustainable.
It's like public transport becomes the heart of the city.
The backbone, almost.
Yeah, connecting everything and everyone. But it's not just about functionality, right?
No, not at all.
I mean, some of these sources talked about the aesthetics of public transport.
Oh, yeah, the design elements.
Like, think about those classic yellow cabs in New York.
Oh, yeah, iconic.
Or those colorful trams you see in Lisbon. Or the super modern subway stations in Stockholm.
It all adds to the city's vibe, doesn't it?
Totally. It's like public transport becomes an art form in itself.
It really does. And that's what makes it so captivating. It's practical, it's innovative, it has the social impact, and it's even artistic. It's got it all.
It does. Okay, so before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier about those essential phrases for navigating public transport.
Yeah, good idea. It's easy to get lost in all the fascinating details, but at the end of the day, you got to be able to communicate, right?
Exactly. So for our listener, let's do a quick recap of those key phrases that'll help them navigate public transport like a pro.
Perfect.
So for asking for information, remember those simple questions like, excuse me, where's the nearest, bus stop, train station, whatever it is, or how do I get to? And then you fill in the blank with your destination.
Exactly. And when you're buying tickets, be ready with phrases like, how much is a ticket to? Or, can I get a single ticket, please? Or a return ticket. Don't forget to be specific about whether you want a one-way or a round trip.
Right. And once you're on board, you might need phrases like, is the seat taken? Or could you please let me know when we reach? And then you say, your stop. These will help you, just navigate the whole journey.
For sure. And the more you use them, the more natural it'll feel. Don't be afraid to, stumble a bit at first.
Oh, yeah. Everyone makes mistakes.
Exactly. It's all part of the learning process.
And who knows, you might even end up with a funny travel story to tell later on because of it.
Exactly. All right, so we've given you the tools. Now here's the challenge. On your next trip, we dare you to really immerse yourself in the world of public transport. Don't just think of it as a way to get from point A to point B.
Yeah, think of it as an adventure, a chance to experience the city like a local.
Exactly. Soak it all in, watch the people, listen to the sounds, notice the details. You never know what you might discover.
Happy travels, everyone.